We're now talking to Fox Charlotte Sports live host and reporter Will Kunkel. What's going on, Will?
Nailed the name that time. Thanks for having me on, boys.
You know what it is? Speedy tells me before the show. He has everything set up. He writes it down for me. Make sure that I know. And I'm doing all the stuff. I'm doing my research and everything, getting everything together. And then Speedy tells me, he's like, his name is Kunkel. Kunkel.
You had it right at the beginning of the show, and then you went to something else.
and then all of a sudden, when I'm about to introduce somebody, I mess up their name. It's really, really bad. But then again, I'm not very good with names, especially hockey names. I'm horrible. Horrible. But anyways, before we get into some sports conversation with you, how are you and your family with COVID? I mean, we haven't spoken to you. How's everything going over there?
Clean. Everyone's good. My wife's an ICU nurse, and so she never got it. We're all good and gravy, baby.
Look at that, man.
Is that still a topic for an opener at this point?
You know, it's a topic for me. You know, I want to make sure that all my guests are happy and healthy. You know?
Yeah, I go to the gym and I eat well, so I'm going to be all right.
Well, I go to the gym. I don't know about eating well. I've been eating well lately and drinking some water, but it has a lot to do with taking my blood and getting, and making sure that I have my triglycerides are down. Anyways, why don't we get into a little bit about you first before we get into sports? How did you become a reporter in Charlotte, and where did you start in high school, college? What made you become a sports reporter?
I played sports my whole life. I grew up in Connecticut. I played baseball, football, basketball, and then I played baseball in college, and eventually just kind of was like, well, I ain't making it, so I can either quit this thing and have a senior year, and I did that, and I was like, now I don't know what to do because everyone at home, does Wall Street or does whatever it is that they do, and I was like, all right, I'll do that, and I was like, this sucks. I do not want to do this. And then I went to lunch or dinner one night with my mom, and she was like, what do you want to do? If someone could tell you could do anything and no one could tell you otherwise, I want to talk about sports. She's like, go do it. I was like, okay. So long story short, graduated college with a social major because I didn't know what the hell I was doing with my life. And then worked at ESPN for 2 years right out of college. Worked on Mike and Mike in the morning and some college football not game day, but college football live and Sports Center. So I had a real fun time there, but wanted more attention in my life. It wasn't enough being behind the camera. So went to Northwestern for a year and then went to Fargo, Toledo, Wichita, and now here in Charlotte. It's like coaching. You just kind of climb the ranks until you finally get somewhere you want to be.
So our friend Justin Craig then?
Sounds familiar. Where
he produced over there for Mike and Mike. He was over there. He worked on the Mike and Mike show. And
depending on what year. So I was there for 2 years. What would it be? 8 and 9, 8 to 10, something like that.
Mm-hmm. I know he was a producer, and now he's the regional guy. He runs, ESPN Radio now. So he's fantastic, man. He's doing big things. So shout out to Justin Craig. But as everybody knows, we are talking to Fox Charlotte Sports live host and reporter Will Kunkel. So, Will, why don't we get into some Charlotte sports? Because obviously, over there in Charlotte, it's a basketball place. It really is. Michael Jordan and the Charlotte Hornets. I always call them the Bobcats because that's what I remember them as. Yeah, but it is the Hornets over there. What is it like what is it like over there with the Ball family? Obviously, running the town over there. I mean, LaMelo Ball is the superstar over there. He's the face of the franchise. What is it like as what you have seen over the last last year over there with the Charlotte Hornets?
I mean, this dude's got star power, and I've never seen somebody, and I mean this respectfully, do nothing in the league with so much star power. I mean, he just came in and was like, boom. And you understand why. Mm-hmm. Like, he's extremely exciting to watch. He's eccentric. He has extreme amounts of ability, and he's going to be very good in the NBA. But, I mean, it's rare that you see a kid come in and just, boom, be that type of a star. Like, when he's out at grocery stores, when he's out in his car, I mean, forget about it. There's a video of Michael Jordan in a parking garage, and kids ran up to him and were like, "Where's LaMelo?" And you're like, "Yo, what? You're talking to the greatest basketball player on earth right now." And it's changed, and we haven't had that kind of star power here since Cam Newton, and it's been a while. You go quarterback always runs the town, but it's tough when you're Teddy Bridgewater in for 1 year, Sam Darnold in for 1 year, Kyle Allen, Taylor Heineke. Doesn't really have that same kind of star power. Baker Mayfield definitely brings that star power, but LaMelo's different. But he's got to win. Like, you got to be successful to be more than just star power. But it's fun having a guy like that because it's relevant, even though the team isn't very good right now. It makes you relevant on the national stage.
Don't forget about the Derek Anderson saving the 2014 season when Cam Newton was hurt. Big month of December because of him. So my question is, I'll sticking with the Hornets. Outside of LaMelo Ball, they've had a lot of kind of either top 10 or fringe top 10 draft picks, a lot of them just coming into their own. And are there any guys to watch out for of those draft picks recently to maybe make a bigger leap, like the LaMelo Ball type leap for the next couple of years?
I mean, the dude was Miles Bridges, and then he allegedly beat his wife, his girlfriend. I'm not entirely sure what she really is. Like, I've seen her labeled like a dozen things, but the mother of his children nonetheless, and the photos are brutal. Having said that, we don't know what's going to happen. He could be suspended for the whole year. He may miss no games at all, and they're going to deal with a PR nightmare. But he was an all-star. I mean, he was the guy that there is going to help lead them to the promised land, being, you know, a fifth seed. If that's the promised land it is right now. But without him, it's who knows. But like Mark Williams, we'll see what he can do coming out of Duke. But I mean, when you're the Hornets and you're constantly drafting at 13, 14, 15, you don't get a star. But when you do, you got to hit, and they hit on LaMelo Ball. But they missed on like Frank Kaminsky years prior, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. They've just missed on way too many to be good. And then obviously bad contracts with Nick Batum and then not never having a center. But Miles Bridges, whatever happens with him is going to dictate the future of this team dramatically.
We are talking to Fox Charlotte Sports Live host and reporter Will Kunkel. There were a lot of interesting things that have happened this offseason. And one of them, the Charlotte Hornets were looking for a head coach. And they thought they had one from the Golden State Warriors, Kenny Atkinson. And Kenny Atkinson is, we all know him over here. He's a Long Island native, New York native, worked with the Knicks, helped Jeremy Lin. He helped develop those Brooklyn Nets, Karis LeVert and Allen and all these different kids that we have seen, and even brought Spencer Dinwiddie to a higher type of point guard in the NBA. And then obviously gets fired because of our friend Kyrie Irving, who doesn't know when to shut his mouth. So what happened? I mean, he accepted the job, and then within 24 to 48 hours, he decided not to take the job. What was it over there that he didn't like the youngsters of the Charlotte? Was it that, or was it something else on why he decided not to take that job?
From what I was told, it was all like family and kids. They were like, no, we don't want to move. And fine, I respect that. But don't you have that conversation like, hey, this is an on-site job. I know everyone's working remotely. This ain't one of those guys. So don't you have that conversation prior to accepting the head coaching job with the Charlotte Hornets and then be like, all right, we're out. But like, it makes sense. They were in Brooklyn and then they were in Los Angeles. Now they're in Golden State. So like, you are dragging your kids from school to school to school and your wife as well. So I understand it, but it's hard to believe you didn't have that conversation. Maybe it's like, you know, Tom Brady and Giselle right now. Like, they had the conversation. Tom was like, no, I'm doing my thing. And Kenny was like, all right, I respect that. They pulled out, and then the Hornets were shocked. I mean, the conversations I had with some of them behind the scenes were like, we had a deal in place. It was all but signed, and I guess it took longer than expected. So they were kind of like, why is this deal not signed yet? And eventually we found out why, and it blew like everyone away of the Hornets, because I got in touch with a handful of people with some sources, and they're like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, I let them know what was going on because they had no idea yet.
You know, it's so interesting because that's a head coaching job. You're an assistant coach on Steve Kerr's, his team is coaching. Yes, you're a first string coach. You're right behind Steve Kerr. Who cares? You're not a head coach in the NBA, and you're not getting the Golden State job. You're not getting the Clippers job, and you're not getting the Lakers job. So you're not staying over there. So to me, eventually you're going to get an offer for another job. Now, a lot of people believe here in New York, he's waiting for some coach to be fired after this coming season. I believe it. Tom Thibodeau is on the edge over here. If this team does not make the playoffs this year, I believe Tom will be fired. And I love Tom. I'm the one who predicted 2 years ahead of time that Tom Thibodeau, and anybody could tell you, I wrote an article and I said Tom Thibodeau will be the head coach of this New York Knicks team. He became the New York Knicks head coach. But now he's right now tailing at the end of that contract, and I believe that this is a win or break year for him. And I've said this, Speedy will tell you, that if he gets fired, Kenny Atkinson's probably the lead guy to get the job. He's from New York. His family would probably love to come back here. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think he decided, you know what, I'm looking at my options right now, and my options here is the Knicks suck. They're in a bad situation. I'll just wait until Tom Thibodeau bombs this, and I'm going to get that job anyways, because I was the second guy that was going to get that job before Tom took the job. So I don't know what you I don't know what you think about that, but what are your thoughts to that? I mean, there's a lot of talks. There was two people that we talked to over the last couple of months that said the same thing. They believe that he believes that he could be the next head coach for the New York Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think he could be. I'd be surprised if he was willing to take the job. And then it was like, the Knicks. I forgot about them. Shit, that's right. I mean, so I'm sure that he is definitely on the short list if that ever happens, and it's on his short list for sure. I'd be more inclined to think that Steve Kerr was like, hey, listen, I'm going to do this for like 2 years, maybe 3. You're next in line if you want it. Because, Steve's had some health issues.
Right.
So he's not exactly a spring chicken. They've got young players. Stephen Curry is going to be around for much longer than 3 years.
Right.
You would imagine. So I would be more inclined that a conversation like that happened, because I'm not so familiar with the Warriors coaching staff down the bench, but they lost a handful of guys. Like, didn't Brown leave and someone else left? So Steve's probably like, dude, you can't leave me too. Here's maybe even a little extra money as well. And he was like, all right, I'll stick around.
That's interesting. I never even thought of that.
Kenny Atkinson looks at the Knicks. Oh, didn't we trade for Donovan? No. No, I'm going to wait another year.
I thought that was a guarantee. What the hell happened?
No, the Knicks, even in their greatest guarantees, still find some kind of way to get too cute with it. Please. And they have to have their second guy negotiate instead of our actual president of basketball operations. So my question about the Hornets, going back to them, being that Michael Jordan is an executive over there, in a player-run type league, are you surprised that hasn't really warranted more leverage? I know you mentioned some of the bad contracts, but even some of the superstar leverage, because even in some other cities that aren't supposed to be quote-unquote big markets, we've seen players want to go there.
You mean with Jordan being the owner?
Yeah, like him being an executive. Are you surprised, like, a former player being there hasn't warranted that much leverage?
Yes and no. Like, I don't know. It's so. I mean, they've played this brand of basketball in the past because of the lack of talent that is boring, uninspiring, and no one wants to play with. Now they're playing like James Borrego had them playing fast, up pace, and everyone around the league that we talked to was like, you guys play a really fun brand of basketball and players like to come here. So I don't know that Jordan is really all that involved, honestly, in the day-to-day. I mean, I know he's not involved in the day-to-day operations, let alone something like that. I mean, you saw what they had to shell out just to get Gordon Hayward here. They had to shell out extra money because it is Charlotte. Giannis went to Milwaukee because that's where he ended up. And then he was like, he's a different breed. He's like, I want to win here. I'm going to do it here. This is what I've started. I'm going to finish it. That's not the NBA. The NBA players are not like, this is where I came. I'm sticking with it. Hell with everybody else. I'm making my way, Pat. No, they're like, oh, my boys are over there. I'm going to go play with them, or everyone come over here. Like, it's way too hard down here in Oklahoma City. I'm going to go to Golden State where everyone just crapped out, where everyone just beat my ass with Steph and them. And then, obviously talking about Kevin Durant, then he goes to Brooklyn. It's like you're chasing the ring versus building your own thing and sticking somewhere. And the irony behind that is that success is built with stability. I mean, all the best franchises have stability. So Mike just isn't as involved as you would like to think that he is. And as much as players respect him, there's too many unknowns. Like, they were here and then they weren't here. And then there were the Bobcats and they were trash. Kemba tried to build it to the best of his ability. They just never hit on other picks and never built around him properly, unfortunately.